and on that note, there's not a lot of teeth to the CCPA. There are, GDPR has some very clear enforcement mechanisms, and the CCPA does have some things, but it's relatively open and in many ways on the consumer and the business to kind of work that out. Whereas GDPR has very clear enforcement mechanisms, but as we're about to see, that's about to change in California. So with the GDPR, again, it applies to data subjects, which is a really interesting term. Obviously, that applies to European residents and citizens, but it would certainly appear to apply to really anyone who is in the EU or is subject to the entities that are subject to the GDPR. So it is very broad, whereas I think the CCPA is very clearly defined to California residents. GDPR can be exceptionally broad. And in both cases, they both have what's called extraterritoriality. So they apply outside of California. If you're a business here in North Carolina and you are collecting information on a European Union citizen, if you're collecting information on a California citizen, and you fall into the GDPR scope, then both apply to you, regardless of the fact that you're in North Carolina. So businesses that fall under the GDPR, those would be entities based in the EU and entities outside the EU that sell goods or services or products to individuals in the EU, or businesses that monitor the online behavior of data subjects. And again, that is quite broad. So in both cases, the scope is outside of their specific territories, and in both cases it is rather broad. But I think data subjects is a good bit broader, or it can be anyway. So very similar types of personal data. Again, I think we all can kind of understand what that means. Specifically, if you're processing data or if you're collecting, different types of data, definitely want to make sure the data you're collecting is included in either of these regulations. But I do think in a very general term, we all can understand what that term means. Do you have to make disclosures about collection and use, much like the CCPA? It does include an express data security requirement, whereas CCPA has some guidelines and some please do and please take care of data. There is no express real means of enacting a data breach in most cases. There are a handful of cases with the CCPA, but not. It's very, very specific, whereas the GDPR has a much broader data security requirement and steps that one must do procedure-wise. There's also a notion of an affirmative consent, which is really built into GDPR, not so much in the CCPA, except in very limited circumstances with sale. Once someone opts out, they then have to opt in, and only after a period of time, after 12 months.